Hello guys, this is Kobe here with another not so quick analysis. This time I'm gonna be talking about M80 on the Mirage. They are an interesting team to watch. I really like on how they play the map. And if you are new to the Mirage, I really recommend you to see the default movement from M80 because they have a vast playbook, they play a lot of positions, but I decided to show only the good ones for me, only the ones that highlight the way you should be playing the map. And for the results they have are very good because they played on the stage one three Mirage and won all of three. On the stage two, they played against Imperial and they lost in a 11-13. And the reason they lost is something that we'll be talking about because it goes all the way of opposite they should be playing on the map. It is an interesting take from me, at least I think. But moving on, the profile. But first, let me talk about the pronunciation of the players. Next, Lake, Sin, Slacks, and Swisher. The profile is very interesting, very simple for mid, because they really like the mid aggro. They really put three players on the mid on the most of the round. Swisher, Slacks, Lake, and Engage on the mid side. Sometimes they play passive, but the mid control, it is a must have for mid. Other than that, they have the AWP presence with Slacks playing window, short, connector, no, ladder, ticket position, he can rotate market, he can move a lot on the map. And it's really interesting because the way he moves, he facilitates his teammates to move along. Because we get to the third point of the profile, the player's rotation. M80 rotates the players not just outside the players, outside the bomb side, from mid to B. No, they rotate inside the bomb side, from shadow to the bomb side, from shadow to the ladder, from the bomb side to the ladder. No, they move a lot inside these minor regions. So the players aren't just waiting, holding the angles. No, they're active in the bomb side. And I really like when the teams do this because it is hard to predict you are really the player gonna be. So when you shoot in the wall, so when you do some random shoots in the smoke and you get some kills, when you're moving fast on the map, you're moving inside the bomb side, the chances, the odds of you getting a kill, it's lower because you don't know where the player gonna be. The player can be one spot, another spot, that's it. But moving on to the default. First of all, let me say that default very similar to the mid control, as you can see, but we have a clear difference on the intentions of the plays. The default is a passive way. You just want to control the information. You don't want to take risks with unnecessary duels. The default is passive. The default is to read the map. And this same play, for those that doesn't play Mirage, you must know because it is simple. This is how you should be the basics of the Mirage. One player connector, one player short, one player window, and then you both anchors, A and B side. That's it. Default, you wait for the cheese movement. You make your WP, throw some shots because you already throw a Molotov behind the box, a flash on the chair so the short player can engage. But you are waiting for the cheese reaction, just controlling so they can't storm you out on the mid. You secure the mid. But now for the control mid. Control mid is a more aggressive position. Your three players will engage at the same time. Connector, lake, push, because he also wants to exploit this flash on the chair position. Swisher also moves along on the catwalk position, because sometimes the T is gonna throw a smoke right here, so you throw an nade to block this smoke and engage. Your window player, also more active, your window player that is lax, won't be rotating towards the backside of the map. He stays more time on the control, he stays longer on the position. Different from the default, the default window player rotates back. Same positions, same players. But what changed? Mentality. One you want aggression, the other want to information. I know that information sometimes is also aggression. Yes, it is. You are correct. But the thing is that when you play passive, waiting, waiting. Control mid is to take out the game. And these two players for me, just talking outside of the position, are very good because, Mirage, the control on the window, the control from the underpass, because when you have to control mid, you also can control underpass. It is nice to have, it is something you should be trying to achieve, at least for the people learning to play the Mirage. And also, it was shown very effective when Mary played this same position because the teams, well, are they left in the mid or not? They left in the mid, what they want to do. And I really like it because the only difference it is the mentality and makes a lot of impact on the game. And this shows how good our game or how CS is because the players are exactly on the same spots. They're playing completely different. It is crazy for me. But the AWPA. AWPA, we have slacks on two positions. And the reason why we have slacks on two positions, it is because he needs to dance according with the scene. So if slacks is on the ladder position, the stars position, aiming towards the ramp, Sin is on the B side, sorry, the A side, bomb side, because he's playing more passive way. He's waiting. He's playing towards the ticket position. But what if Slacks playing on the ticket position? Well, Sin's move to the shadow. So see, this region is where, sorry, this region right here is where Sin gonna be moving according to where Slacks is inside the bomb side. And this go all the way back when I said on the profile that made moves a lot inside the bomb side. So there is this minor rotations that is happening on these smaller places. And that's very good. I really like Made doing this because the WP can play multiple spots. Yes, he can, but about the other players inside bomb side? Their the default positions. Well, you move along, you dance with the player. One side, another side, one side, another side. And then on the media, you give up short in order to control window because remember that M80 really likes to control this mid position. That's why we doesn't see a flash right here because you don't want to pick on the mid. You want to pick on the A side. And the reason also that the ladder position for Slack is very good is because he can easily connect. Because since you are lacking one short player, one mid player, in some way you need to compensate this. Well, if you're in the stars position, easily long angle. See, so all the basics from the Mirage are still covered. Now for the AWP chart. Just 1 second. Sorry. Now for the AWP chart, well, you kind of want to rotate switcher, move on the window, start on more on the box position, then move window. Slacks taking full control of the spot. Meanwhile, since the mid is so more like how can I say this? More aggressive now, certain approach to the map like this, you must have your A player on the ticket position. If you put him on the stars position, the shadow position, the bomb side, he's too open. Even though you throw more utilities on the ramp position to control the region, or you throw a Molotov, you throw a flash, you throw a secondary Molotov, you ignore Palace because it doesn't need this position right now. So all you want to do is to make your A player safer. As like you also play more rotational games towards the A side. So see this gimmick, the AWP chart covers the chair position, covers more angles from the side, as it is easier for a switcher to rotate straight in. But on the A side, you fall back and close the position. Now for the counterplay, this is how I think you should be playing as T side against M80. First of all, mid info. You need to have the knowledge of what M80 is doing. Are they controlling mid in a passive way, in a more aggressive way? Does they have the WP on the chart, on the ladder position, on the window? Where is the WP? So you first need to have the mid information. One lurker, two lurkers, whatever. You have one player on the mid if you want to play against Mirage. Sorry, against M80. The another play that I think that is really impactful, it is the split A. Shift two players on the palace, two players on the ramp, whatever, three or four, or like I prefer with more players on the palace. Split A. But you can think, well, all the positions that I showed, it was a have a mid presence and no one's on the B, only Hexy on the B side. As I didn't talk about Hexy because he plays the default B anchor. Why shouldn't I be talking on the B side? Well, because Swisher moves on the short position. He plays on the short connector. Slacks can also play on the market. So, do you really want to go for a choke point on the B side that is the smaller angles that is hard to engage just because there is only hex there? Or do you want to exploit the more open spaces on the map, the more duels that you know that for sure the player is gonna be at least on the region, like seeing that is playing on the shadow or on the A side. So you try to exploit these known positions from M80. Now for the last play, underpass. Since you are already gonna be doing this mid information, you have one or two players on the mid, make another two players on the underpass, connect on the underpass with two players and engage on the connector. And then one lurker, either palace or either ramp, do this two, two, and one. I think that is a good approach with the underpass. So I start to move the players, start to engage on the A side, focus the A side. And I doesn't say to focus the A side because it is weaker, it's stronger. But I think the positions are more known for a mate. It is easier to predict and easier to adjust to your game playing to according of what mate it wants to play. So there is this gimmick of information and what predictability. So you can predict with more facility, more easier way on the A side the movement. Now for the quick break. And guys, I know that I haven't been active on the videos, because a lot of stuff I have to do on the live. So sorry about that. And if you want, please subscribe. We are almost with it. Let's just swap the color. With 400 subscribers, that is a nice goal to have. Let me just make a smile face. Yeah. So just remember, subscribe. It's free. I can't play the video again. Sorry. Just now you can. Just resubscribe. Anyway, moving on to the chip profile. First of all, I must say is about M80. They drove me crazy when looking the demos because first I looked at the demos from the major, then I start to look at the demos from Philadelphia. That was the reverse sweep that they had against NRG in the finals. And something I realized is that they play every single round a new position. I don't know what they meant with that. I don't know why they're doing this because it is crazy the amount of positions they played on the T side. They can play every single one I saw. And the thing is that there were minor variations and there are other variations that make the position complete opposite. It's crazy. I don't know what Emery was thinking or is thinking in such an unorthodox way. And now it is the thing that they catch about Emery. The only game I saw that we recently play in a more standard way, in a more default on the T side, they were clapped by Imperial. The last game they played on the major, it was 11-13 for Imperial. Their T side, it was like luster, no. And I tried to play more conventional way, more standard approaches, more, you know, 2-3B, and then the mid split, the amount of positions on that game, on average, it is smaller than other positions from another games from M80. So they tried to be more consistent and failed. It's rich because it should be opposite in my mind. If you want consistency, you want to win more rounds. Anyway, just rich moment from M80 because I was driving crazy. After all this specific video, I took a long time to make, not because I was studying more maps, more demos. No, it was because I had few times every day to read, to watch the things. So every single day would be a smaller torture for me. Not that I don't like, just want to clear really like because when the teams try all this crazy stuff is fascinating for me because it shows how the coach, how the analysts want to deep dive the strategies and to see on where players are comfortable. Moving back to the professor, I talk about a lot of other stuff. They play as a pack. 2 and 3. Lurkers, yes, they can play lurkers, but the main players from them and the plays that I think are more effective are pack 3 and 2. 3A attack. Well, we'll have one lurker B side hexed AWP on the mid side, but they also can be playing on the policy position, sorry, on the ramp position. So you can have the AWP either mid or either A side. And then three players on the policy position. I really like it because it is a simple attack. You block connector, you block window, you throw a flash on the cat so the slacks can control mids alone with the WP, and then you engage on the bomb side. Fast, simple, nothing new to the play, but effective. And that's the thing about M80. The plays I'm gonna be showing about M80 are simple plays. You're gonna see that the T section of the video are gonna be smaller because there's much to talk. You put three plays on the palace, you start to engage, you throw the utility to control mid, you have one lurker B, and that's it. Also, the variation with the WP is like I really like because we start two players here with the WP, one player here, sometimes two players, and make a faraway attack with four players on the A side. That is the minor variations that I said on the profile, because there are all these minor variations where you shift one player from one side to the other and makes the attack very similar. 3B attack, almost same setup. Three players on the B side of the map. They want to engage to control the van player right here. And what is difference between the 3A to the 3B is that the 3B's attack, you have your mid players more active. They really want to push this duel towards the short player because on the default raid of the CT side on the Mirage, you make one short player. So you doesn't throw any utility on the chair, on the catwalk position. No. Two players engage right here. So you are blocking the connector. So if the connector players wants to move out, two players, a loose duo. If the window player wants to move out and maybe be more aggressive, well, two players. And then we have the short player. So since the short there is no utility, you push short. So you're waiting in case the CT wants to challenge your utility, maybe a Molotov here, maybe a smoke here, maybe a flash on the chair, whatever. But you doesn't throw utility on the short position as T side. You challenge him. And while you are challenging him, you are moving on the B side players because with the short player occupied by your mid players, he doesn't have the option to moving back towards market and then, kill on this spot right here, as on the openings of the window position. So it doesn't have to take care of moving on the side. You can fully focus on the van player and then plant on the B side. Now for the 3 mid and 2 A setup. Well, with three mid players, you really want to control the mid. That's why you throw more utilities right here. You throw the flash, you throw secondary smoke, maybe another smoke on the connector position. Then you have slacks, not necessarily behind the box, but more open inside because you really want to challenge the window player. You really want to wait for the connector player to move along, the short player to move along. So really waiting for this. In order to this control to work, you have to have more plays to trade the kills, to throw more utilities consistency. So that's the thing about the 3 mid play with the 2A because when you're rotating these players, you will engage on the A side by connector and by palace. Something that K also can do is to have four players on the mid side and then one player on the palace. I honestly doesn't like it when I saw this, but there is a possibility and should be talking. Something that they also can do it is split one palace and one ramp, but I don't think that is very nice since you have three players on the mid side. You are diverting too much of your effort because you can die one for one. Palace players get killed by the shadow player, the ramp players get killed by the stairs player. So move two, trade the kills. I think that is better approach. Unless you really play fast, sometimes like you made it do this, play fast on the mid side and engage. But then you can do this. Now for the 3 mid to the B players. Well, in this approach, there's two options from M80. The more conventional one, to make these core players right here on the mid to once again engage on the short position, connect, or go for the underpass. From the underpass is the lesser common from M80, there is lesser rounds about this. To be honest, I think I saw only one or two rounds, if not wrong, or it was NRG that do this and I'm confusing the things. Anyway, Underpass, not done so much, at least by M80 profile. So they prefer to go for the house position to engage. And see on this position that really want to pay attention is the gap here and here, because this goes along with the far mid approach from M80. They play these minor positions with variations with four players on the mid and one player on the B side, because remember, they prefer the back position. Or they prefer to have more players, like 4, 3, 2, to move along. And I really like about this, because you are playing without a star on the team. When you think about the melee, well, you have good players like Slacks, like Swisher, another good player, Hex is a consistent anchor, but it doesn't have a really standout player like Molodoi, Zayu, like on the other Brazilian team with Dumal, with No Way, with Try in the same pair that is really star players. And I know I talk about more Brazilian teams because I'm Brazilian, so I know about more about the teams. Anyway, it doesn't have necessarily this big star that really wants to shine. M80, every single player does his job, every single player knows his position, every single player will be traded. By the way, they trade a lot of players. It doesn't necessarily to really want to bait one player like Blame F does. No, you play for the team, and the team wins together, the team loses together. And when you lose together, you play as a pack because you doesn't want to keep losing. And that's why I think that M80 went 3-0 on the stage 1 of the major. And the stage 2, by the time I'm recording this video, they're 2-2 and going to be playing against Patient anyway. By the way, I don't think Patient will pick allow Mirage because they have a good ban rate on the map and a lower win rate, even though they play 7 pool. But anyway, just moving back to the position. 3 players on the mid, connector, charge short. That's it. Now, how you should be playing, since I said on the earlier of the video on the profile that they have a lot of positions, how do you stop a lot of positions? Well, you make safe bets. Bet. You make safe approaches. Have your WP on the window, and then your WP can rotate market, can rotate ticket, but you play a safer position. The A anchor, I really like the shadow position, because as you are ready to rotate the mid player, the window player, make your anchor player waiting for the palace. As the palace, as I said, it is the main route on the A side of the attack. They can attack ramp. Yes, they can attack ramp, but the preferable route for them is palace. So play on the shadow. And to close out the position, well, my suggestion, mid control. Have your short player move more on the map. Because yes, I know that there are 3, 4 players on the mid, 2 players on the minor positions. Yes, a lot of players. But at least with the short player, you have the information. You have the commitment. If there is a quick player, a slower player, you have the tempo of the game, knowing the short player. So make your short player be more aggressive. And for the B side itself, standard anchor. Play the van position, play the bomb side position. As I said, your window player, your safe AWP, should be player to rotate. So he plays market, he plays tickets. And that's it. Because since they have a lot of plays, well, play for the most possible rotations that you can have, open rotations. So make your plays more active. In returning to the game that they lost in the major, that I said they play more traditional against Imperial, one of the reasons why I think that played this T side so poorly against them, it was, they had these players coming out on these spots on the this side and it became way too predictable. So the way Imperial play against them, it was anticipating the movement. They start to read and make the right calls. In the right calls, they are always meeting and made with the correct approach because they had an active players. They had this rotation, this mid control to meet M80. Another aspect is what in that game, since M80 was playing the same movement, the same approaches in the game, they had a lower plenty percentage of rounds. So their economy was really broken. They were few full buy rounds. They weren't able to construct the lead against Imperial. And if not wrong, that half ended 10-2 to Imperial on the T side. Or it was 9-3, sorry. It was something like that. It was bad, the T side from the M80. And that's it, guys. Hope you enjoyed the content. Sorry once again about doing the videos with a lesser frequency because I really wanted to make this major with a lot of videos and stuff like that. But that's not what life wanted for me to do. I had to work. I still nowadays I still have to work today. By the way, I skipped the morning work hours. They are plenty. They're doing. It is hot, by the way, here in my city. They're really working hard while I'm here on the bedroom on the farm with a sound that I hope that is good because I'm not on the spot I really recorded. This is another spot. So that's it, guys. See you soon. See you another day.